Hello, AFTERBUZZ Nation, and welcome back to your Outcast After Show. We are talking about the penultimate episode this week, that is episode 9, Close to Home. I may not be the devil, but this episode punched me in the face with emotions. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
So that was something.
I've been waiting for this moment a long time as a comic book reader. This is it. I was like, bring on this moment. And it happens differently, but no less, like, soul-fulfilling.
That's quite a tease. What moment are we talking about? You're going to have to stay tuned to find out. I am Lex Michael, all over social media at the Lex Michael. Thank you for joining us. With me, as always, are...
I'm Lacretia Lyon, and you guys can always find me at LACRETIALYON anywhere on the internet, since there is only one.
Hey guys, I'm Joelle Monique, and you can find me everywhere at Joelle Monique.
Hello everyone, I'm Abby Vega, and you can find me at _Abby Vega.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. Let's not bury the lead at all. That was dark.
It was real dark.
That was
and
super
I made
dark.
it worse by the song.
So obviously, the moment that we have been steeling ourselves up for all season has finally come to pass. Yep, they got Megan.
Yep.
They got and then Megan got Mark.
She really got Mark.
Yikes. So I guess we'll work backwards a little bit, but of course it makes sense, and we've been talking about this as something that we assumed was going to happen for most of the season now. It felt not predictable so much as logical and inevitable that the story was going to have to go here. But before we just pick it apart into little pieces that we can examine from multiple angles, like we do, how did this episode play for you guys, and how did that ending affect you? Was it the gut punch that it was for me? Like, how did it play for you guys?
Yeah, and you say that, obviously we've been predicting this, but for me, it still seemed so shocking. I still couldn't believe that it happened, even though we had kind of been saying that since day one, that someone close to Kyle was going to become possessed, and Megan was obviously the perfect target. But I was still so surprised when it happened, because, the rest of the episode, like, they have their nice moment, the family, everything. And I saw someone actually mention in the chat how right when Kyle and Mark started opening up to Kyle, this happens too. So it was just all around very gut-wrenching.
I think we have to commend the creative team in the build-up to that moment. The fact that we learned just recently kind of the agency of these things, and how they just fall into a body. They don't get to choose where they land. And so having known all the stuff that we know about them so far, and then to see it actually happen, to see one drop right into her, and then that scream in the shower, I think that just the way they explained it, the way it came out, I thought it was very successful.
Yeah, to me, it's just, I was not at all surprised that it picked Megan and that this happened to her. What was so shocking is what happened after, to me. And as I said earlier, it took The Walking Dead 5 seasons to get that dark. We're not even done with season 1 yet, and it's like, oh man. And
by that dark, you mean attacking children?
Yeah, or, and the thing is also killing off, a character after such a happy moment like that. But I knew, I was like, I know you, Robert Kirkman.
Are you talking about the moment where it's revealed that Megan is pregnant again?
Yeah, she's pregnant, and then she's like, it's okay, you lost your job, we're going to work out this thing out.
Have this beautiful moment between the two of them where it's like, we're going to make this work. This is a chance for us to have a fresh start with a new baby, and we can put, new terms, new beginning for our family. And it was right about that moment where I started to go,
I know. That was very
I did not.
You can never get comfortable with
I am so naive because I was just like, oh, that was so great, I did not even get a little suspicious when it was such a great moment. And, he had a job interview after his whole job dilemma.
On that part, I literally rolled my eyes. I was like, no one's making it out alive.
Oh, guys, I was not expecting it at all.
To me, all I was expecting was for her to get possessed right after that. I did not expect her to bash his head into the bathroom mirror.
So
I was like,
I wanted to ask you guys specifically about the way that scene was staged and executed. Has anyone else on this panel, or is it just me, have any of you guys watched Twin Peaks?
Oh, I have.
No.
Okay, so if you've watched Twin Peaks, and I'm not going to go into spoilers because especially with the show coming back, I don't want to give anything away if people are going to be catching up, but the staging of this scene was almost identical, save for the presence of one additional body. Mark is in the scene as well, but it's almost identical to the final scene of Twin Peaks. Possessed body, the mirror, the face smashing against the mirror, and I'm watching this the whole time going like, hey guys, I like that show too.
Yeah, and I mean, Robert Kirkman's got to be a fan. I mean, that pretty much sparked everything after it, like X-Files and things like that. I mean, everything was...
And you could argue that there almost is no X-Files if Twin Peaks isn't so successful, and you see
Glenn
that...
Morgan told us that.
And you see that right, it's like you can argue because the guy said so.
Yeah.
But you see that DNA obviously in this show, and they're not shy about throwing in little Easter eggs about what their references and influences are. You see Kyle has the X-Files poster in his room at the beginning of the season. So I have to assume that this is at least slightly intentional because it is so close as far as the way it is staged, both the content of the scene and the physical staging of the bodies, like the actual blocking. But then the other thing that I gotta comment on, because we don't talk about it enough, is how phenomenal Ren Schmidt is as Megan, and how tremendously she played that transition.
It was lightning fast. It was the quickest thing I've ever seen. And then, like, her, like, emerging out of the tub of just, like, full-on beast mode, I was like, oh, she came to play. And then, like, even the playing in the blood and the kind of experimenting, I picked up what Chief was saying earlier about, everything is new to them. All of it. It's completely new. And you really got that sense from her as she's killing her husband.
I thought she was going to bash her own head into the mirror.
Yeah, well...
Yeah.
I didn't think that she was going to bash his head into the mirror.
And like
Those first days, they say, are the most treacherous. And the minute it happened, I was like, everyone stay away.
But it literally, like, look, it takes a lot at this point, whether it's in TV or a movie, not even to scare me necessarily, but to really profoundly disturb me. A lot, I've seen enough now, and like I'm jaded enough as an audience member, where it's a little bit like, it's like almost like the harder that somebody tries, it just feels like they're trying really hard to disturb me, and it's like, I applaud the effort, but it doesn't do much to move me. I was genuinely and deeply disturbed watching the way Ren Schmidt played that scene. How new everything was, everything physical, especially the playing in the blood. Really, like that just freaked me out.
Yeah, that was creepy. But yeah, as soon as she comes into it comes into her body, and she just screams in the shower because she doesn't know what water is, what is going on. It's hot, and then the way she looked at herself in the mirror was just like amazing, and it was so perfectly creepy.
How about if she's pulling that shard of glass out of his neck?
I know.
Just like experimenting of like what's gonna happen next.
Yeah.
It was perfect. It was creepy and unnerving, and the lead in for that to be the lead into the phone call.
Oh my goch.
Just the two little girls crying, and you're just like, oh, they're trapped. And this is exactly what Kyle's been trying to avoid since day one.
Yep.
This is exactly what he's been trying to avoid. So right at the finale, we're going to have him facing literally all of his biggest fears. His wife is out of commission. Like, poor Kyle.
Poor Kyle. And it almost just is like, have we explored the idea anywhere in culture, in literature, that maybe just having a terrible life is something you can inherit genetically? Because it seems like Amber is on the same path, but starting even earlier, which is just such a bummer for her. I do want to touch on something that just came up in the live chat. Adam Anderson asked a question that's something that I've been pondering, and I wanted to know what your guys' take on it was. He asked, does emotional turmoil have anything to do with how susceptible you are to being possessed? And I wanted to ask you guys, I have a reading of that based on what they've shown us in the series, but I wanted to ask you guys if you had a reading, and if so, what that was.
Yeah, to me, I think there is a sense of vulnerability that does have to coincide, because when you look at all the people, whether it be the really young, like, our first victim, or the, older, more, like, that's the thing is, I feel like Kyle's mom may have had an underlying mental illness or something, then possessed her. She wasn't as bad. But also with Sidney, he was a child molester. Mm-hmm. Or you see, the only person we don't have a read on that is Ogden's wife. But as he said, he likes this version better. So maybe she was very emotional and fragile.
Sure.
Yeah. And Allison, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm of the opinion that it's completely random, and that we are just seeing exacerbated demons kind of being unearthed once possession takes place. I I think everybody's got like emotional trauma and baggage to a certain degree. I don't know. I mean, Kyle obviously extenuating circumstances, and some of the other characters have kind of, but like one was just a granny. Like she's just, not the warmest person, but not terrible for all accounts of her so far. So I just think it's random.
Yeah, I agree with that side of it, because with Allison too because Allison was happy with Kyle before, right? Before she got possessed, yeah. So I always just took it as it's completely random. Because with oh my gosh, what is the granny's name?
Mildred.
Mildred, yeah, Mildred. You know what I mean? I just think it's random, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Mildred also fits in because a lot of diseases, for example, affect the really young or the really old, like the children and the elderly. And then again, you feel like Allison and Kyle's mom are connected to him, so that's a possibility as well. But yeah, also they, seem to be very emotional as well, and that's probably what's attracting someone like Kyle to them.
Yeah, so I want to piggyback on what you just said. I mean, we have enough text that we know that it is essentially they just drop in at random. But if you think about it like Lacretia, you just said, like, if it's an immune system, diseases tend to hit the very young and the very old the hardest, people with weaker immune systems, right? So my reading of it based on Megan's journey specifically is we're watching somebody who could be a target the same as anybody else, but it's a perfect storm of elements. She's very close to Kyle, and we also watch over the course of the season how her, let's say, the immune system of the soul, if you will, is continually eroded just further and further and further until, we get to the opening of this episode and we see her. She's breaking. I mean, we're watching a mental emotional break as she picks up a piece of the glass that she broke and she's squeezing it in her hand. I think we have in Megan this perfect storm of elements where, we watch her soul's immune system weaken to the point where she is just an easy target for this.
You have to wonder if it's like surroundings too, because we get that with Reverend Anderson as well. But because he's, I think, been interacting so much with the possessed, whether he's had an effect or not, we're still not sure. We know they're afraid of him and he might be a little bit dangerous to them. We're not sure how yet. But we definitely see that crumbling soul you were talking about just deteriorating pretty quickly, and even into this episode as he's slapping around other people's kids and stuff.
Dude, all right,
don't even get me started.
Let's go back and let's talk about Reverend Anderson's continuing journey towards implosion. He doesn't, at this point, he doesn't need Sydney to undo him. You know what I mean? Like, he's doing a fine job of it himself, it would seem.
Yeah, I love the scene with him and Patricia. And, she just pretty much is like, you need to get your shit together. I loved that line. And it really, that's why it's so sad later in the episode how that turns out. But yeah, and then also, he was very clear-headed then, as he was with Chief Giles. To me, I actually was surprised he went that dark with her son, considering he's like, yeah, I know that's exactly what Sydney was doing, but I just wanted to, when do you get a chance to punch the devil right in the face?
Right.
I loved that line, yeah.
Yeah, it's so right off the bat, though, he's talking to Patricia, and there are a lot of just weird, interesting layers to this relationship, none of which, to me, appear healthy. Right off the bat, they have this exchange about, what he talks about his son and what he thinks his son might have thought about the way he had that public outburst. And then Patricia has that line about how he'd say, what I'm saying is you need to get your shit together. She says it lovingly. And then she goes, I want you to move in with me. And I go, what?
I know.
You want him to do what? Why?
This is a very dysfunctional town full of very, emotionally disturbed people.
Yeah, and her reasoning was so weird.
Yeah.
She's like, I want a sense of normalcy. Wasn't that the only reasoning she gave?
With pentagram chest? You want a sense
that's
of
that's
normalcy?
not very normal. And
she has a
moving in
ginger
that
kid.
quick.
I'm also wondering what is kind of up with Patricia. We see very, from, Vixen and kind of the first couple episodes where she's trying to, bed the Reverend to concerned, very loving and devoted mother to, not really caring that much and trying to be, she's just swinging drastically like a pendulum. I just don't know why. I don't know what makes her tick, and I'm very interested to see, hopefully next season, if we get more of her.
Yeah, because to me, her son sort of explains it when, that's exactly why. Sydney seems to be not so much psychic to me, but know a lot more of what's going on than we're led to believe. He's probably watching these people, because I believe that's exactly why he's using her son, even though he pursued him. but it's just a matter of he knows what buttons to push with this family, because as her son says, she was abused as well as him by her husband. And that's why she was looking to someone like Reverend Anderson, who seemingly is a man of God, not going to do that. And then that's why he pushed the envelope and got, him to grab her son.
I mean, he lashed out at an entire community, like completely lost his marbles in front of everybody. It just, now I kind of feel bad for her son, because, like, maybe his yelling was not coming from a teenage evil. Like evil. He's messed up, but maybe there's a firm reason why he's messed up.
He says it. He explicitly says it after that scene where, and again, it's like, Patricia, come down. Sidebar. Because of the nature of this show and the nature of the malevolent forces at play, it's hard to know until we get to the end of the story if this is inconsistent characterization or if it's demonic possession. It could be either, could be both. But there is that moment where Aaron, the boy outside, after Anderson gets a little too physical, says to him, well, my dad used to beat up on me and my mom, so I guess you're not coming around anymore. And it's like, oh, well, no wonder this kid is not
so creepily and happy.
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
He's definitely doing. He's twisting the knife for sure. But it's also like, well, okay, you are a victim and you're a kid, and so it's no wonder that you're angry
and lashing out.
But stop it.
Yeah, maybe don't, make a deal with the devil right away. Get some, street cred first before you dive head first. This guy could easily devour you whole. It'll be interesting to me to see how much further he takes this and how much Sydney really needs him. Obviously, Sydney doesn't need him at all, but I'm wondering to what use he'll become to Sydney.
Yeah, to me, Sydney obviously was using him intentionally to hurt Reverend Anderson, since that seems to be, his goal here is to make him look crazy when he's actually the one that's probably right about all of this. But yeah, I don't know how much they've researched psychopathy and things like that, but one would say, a nature or nurture versus thing with Aaron is this kid seems really evil, and some people might dismiss being abused and watching his mother be abused, but actually that doesn't have a lot to do with psychopathy in the world of psychology. And this kid is actually wetting the bed and a fire away from being, the McDonald triad.
But it could okay. So then, but based on that argument or that line of thinking, do you think it could potentially put a young person in a place of enough anger without a place to put that anger that they would be, like we were talking about before, they would be that much more susceptible to, not even demonic manipulation, period, but certainly in this case, manipulation of the most sinister and insidious kind.
To me, I feel like Sydney is sort of manipulating him, but to me, with Aaron, he went after him. He wants to be a part of this, because there was a point where even Sydney didn't want him around, probably because of the feelings that, who he was before is coming out. But it was almost like he wants this, and so I don't feel like he's some manipulated, child. He is fully aware of what's going on. That's why I say, he certainly fits a true psychopath.
So then, if that's true, because I agree, that all tracks with what we've been seeing, unless Patricia herself is also somehow directly involved in all of these horrible, horrible things going on, that would then arguably put her pretty high in the running for worst life in the town of Rome. Because on the one hand, she's got this terrible, terrible child that she has to contend with. And on the other hand, she's apparently so lonely and feels so adrift and without grounding that she actually wants to commit hard to the dude who blows up in public, who interrupts deacons' meetings and punches people in the face, and it's not
who's kind of been excommunicated from the entire, not just his church, but from the entire community.
And it's not like this is brand new. When he gets into this altercation with Aaron, yes, that's definitely a line because that's her son. That is a line that is very, very different than any other line he could walk up to or cross, but it's not like this type of behavior is new.
Yeah, because to me, she was on Reverend's side until he grabbed her son.
No,
but they knew. Exactly.
You saw the light go out of her eyes right away. She was like, picked another winner.
Oh, yeah.
Who does he think he is? Come on. What makes you think that you can do that and she's going to be okay with it?
But I do have to say, I had a little bit of pride because I've ridden Reverend Anderson pretty hard this whole time because I think he's selfish and mean and kind of arrogant. But he tells, I do. But he tells Kyle, he fesses up to his feelings finally, and he was like, "I'm jealous of you," and I was like, finally we get a true and honest moment from you.
I do like that when he goes to Patricia in the last episode because he's got nowhere else to go. And I love that when that evaporates, he goes back to Kyle. I really genuinely enjoy that because even though the last time they saw each other, they were literally hitting each other in the face, there's nobody else understands.
Well, and to me, it's been a flip in their character dynamic. That's where Kyle started out. No one to turn to, so he and Reverend Anderson are doing this together since they've got this little mission. But yeah, now the roles have been flipped. And it's really interesting to see how that changed just in the course of 9 episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see, too, that Kyle has started to, it's very early going still, but he started to put relationships back into place. And he started to, he still has a very weird, pseudo-contentious relationship with, say, Giles. But even that, they're closer now to an understanding than they were, and it seems like even that, as an example, there is an increasing alienation. Like Giles, he says, very, very fiercely to Sydney, he makes this assertion again that he's like, I'm going to stick by my friends and you don't mess with them. But the further out there that Reverend Anderson goes, the less and less able I think Giles would be to help him in any significant way. So watching that flip happen, is interesting because it's a weird reversal of their dynamic. But in terms of Kyle putting relationships back together, wanted to talk about him and what we spend most of our time with him this episode doing, which is exactly that, trying to create a sense of stability for Amber by asking Megan to enroll her in school. And man, she made 3 new friends at school already, so fast.
She's so cute.
Sweet.
He's a likable kid, man.
This poor child.
She's so precocious.
Right, and then, the stuff about Megan calling out sick, and then obviously leads to the possession, but then we see that Kyle and Mark are connecting, and Mark helps Kyle break into Allison's house.
I love that.
I did too. He's like, this is why it's nice not to be a cop anymore after he breaks in the house.
Which is a cute line, slightly weird logic, because the implication of that logic is, well, I'm not a cop, so I'm a criminal.
I'm good.
Now. I break into houses. The perk of not being a cop is that you can break into people's houses wantonly. But of course, Allison's not there. But Kyle does run into her mother.
Awkward.
Yeah, that was
super awkward. Super duper awkward. But she does point him in the right direction. But she knows now. Allison was apparently lucid enough to convey that this isn't Kyle's fault. Kyle wasn't the one that hurt them. She's not afraid of Kyle. She's afraid of herself. But of course, the mother still blames Kyle.
Sure.
Kyle goes to this psychiatric care facility where Allison is, and we get this moment where he goes to the nurse that's at the desk, and he asks to see her, and of course, the nurse says, well, we can't just let anybody in, and he does a very genuine, this emotional plea to be let in, to have even just a couple of minutes with Allison, and it works, and when I found myself just a picture of Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks popped up on the screen.
I've always had an abnormal attraction to John McClanahan because of that.
so Kyle gives this impassioned plea, and it works. And I found myself flashing back to earlier in the season when Megan was trying to get to Donnie's room and very quickly was able to talk to the person at the desk and get in. And I'm wondering why none of the administrative desk people in the Outcast universe do their job. Really.
Do a quick background check to see, are you estranged from her? Is there any
Well, I'm going
records?
maybe this isn't meant to be our universe. This is an alternate universe where not only is demonic possession a thing, but also front desk positions are a relatively new phenomenon, and they're still working out. They're in the beta version right now, and they still have to work out. When are we supposed to let somebody back? Nobody told me.
As
There's no
someone
list.
who often sits at the front of buildings letting people in or not in, a plea like that might just be I don't have time. Go in, sir. You're clearly tired, and I can tell from this energy that you're not BSing me, so go see your wife or whatever. I don't have time. I can't take care of this man if he just collapses into emotions in my lobby. I don't have the energy for that.
Yeah, and someone who's from, a small town very similar to Rome, demonic possessions and things like that. It's just the norm. But yeah, these front desk people, they're a good old boy system. It's not living in the big city where you are suspicious of everyone. You believe what people say, and they're just okay, yeah, come on in.
Sure. I guess it's just having seen a version of that earlier in the season where it's oh, that was easy. And to see it again, I was just like, well, that's interesting.
And the hotel clerk who was like, sure, I'll let you know which room number he's in.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Ma'am, that's terrifying. Please don't do that for everybody. You shouldn't do it for her.
I hope they at least looked at his ID, like in the cut, like before we see him walk down the hall. I really hope that they didn't just say, yeah, go talk to our psych patients, for sure.
Yeah, Amy Motorhouse in the chat says, admins and psych houses are one step away from their patients. And as someone who once went on a field trip to one, that's pretty accurate.
maybe there's like an element of, well, he's not going to make them more crazy, I guess. I don't know. It struck me as odd.
Yeah.
But okay, we need it to happen so that he can have.
He needed to get in there.
That's the thing. It's like it felt like one of those things that exists only because we need to get Kyle into the building so that he can actually have this conversation with Allison, which I don't know about you guys, but I thought was really nice. He finally gets to be open. Like, it's heartbreaking, but he finally gets to be open with her.
Yeah, to me, that scene was, as you say, very heartbreaking, but it was also sort of a closure. That's why I really worry about what's going to happen with Allison, because it was a very final scene to me of them. The way that she kissed him goodbye, it's just like, what is going to happen here?
Well, and now we've established that this hospital isn't too intense with their oversight of things that are going on.
Yeah, Sydney could drop in and be like, I'm her grandfather.
Yeah, and you have to wonder, how safe is she really? Because if you're another person, it's like possession won't help you in a psych ward. Like, there's no amount of explaining. Like, there's another thing inside of me that a psych ward's gonna be able to logically help you out with at this point.
Everyone says that there.
I feel like I hope the demon has been exorcised and is gone, as little Amber has told us. I doubt it. I doubt it. Poor Kyle's life's not that lucky.
You don't think Allison's demon is gone?
No, Allison's is his wife's. No, Megan is his sister. Allison is his wife. Allison. No, I don't think it's gone. I think that she is still possessed because Kyle's not that lucky.
No, like,
see, I thought that she was demon free.
She appears to be, but we're still not sure how these things work. Amber says she saw it leave, but how much of it left? We've seen like it leave and then people go into coma. She's the first one we've seen kind of get up and be able to walk around after it. I don't trust it.
I have now started going back and catching up on the comics because we're not super far into it. And I'm just now at the point where I'm like 12 issues in and it's exactly where we are in the show right now. There is not much more information. Really, they're not much further along in terms of reveals than we are. There's a little bit more information, given hints as far as maybe the amount of time spent in a body could affect the state that they're left in, but nothing super conclusive. And again, that's in the comics, that's not in the show. You can't really treat that as text for the show.
Not necessarily canon.
Yeah, to me, with Joshua, as we've always pointed out, to our knowledge, he's fine now. It was a quick possession and Kyle got it out. Well, same thing with Allison. I mean, according to Amber, she saw it leave. We weren't really aware of how long it was in there, but it seemed like a very short period because Kyle stops her as she's trying to...
Well, it has to be one of the early days, because we know that those tend to be the most violent, and we hadn't seen a lot of violence from her before. So we can assume that it was that same day even.
Yeah.
I just don't buy that Kyle is so lucky as to catch it first day exercise. I mean, maybe the punishment for Kyle in this was like, now your wife thinks she's crazy and she never gets better, which is also pretty awful. But my money is still on demonic possession.
See, that's what I was going to say. I was like, he's still really not that lucky because at this point it seems as though, you said, it seemed like a very final scene of Allison. And so I think the demon is out of her. But I mean, it's still a very unlucky situation. I'm nervous for what she's gonna do to herself. I think.
Yeah,
I think
that's what Kyle thought,
she
too.
really is. I think like a danger to herself. You see her; she's so broken and messed up.
And the scene does feel very much like you guys are saying. It feels like a goodbye scene. She doesn't say the words, but she says she might as well when she says, "You need to be the one to take care of our daughter now, not me, not us. Has to be you." That's basically a goodbye without saying goodbye explicitly. And it was like, that was not quite the gut punch that would come a couple scenes later, but that actually hurt. Like, I thought that was crazy effective because we finally see this moment where they get to be real with each other and they get to be honest, and Kyle gets to finally talk to his wife about what's happening. And it could for all we know, could be the last time they ever see each other. That's heavy.
It's very heavy.
And it's really sad, too, because I feel like even in this scene, you see how much love that they really do have for each other, and I think that makes it even harder because Kyle finally thought, in the last episode when she came back, I'm going to get my family back, and he kept saying, come back to our family, and he was kind of thinking things were going to get back. Well, obviously, that's not going to happen for Kyle, but it was sad because you do see how much they loved each other and care for each other.
And in Kyle's defense, Kyle doesn't know that he's the protagonist of a Robert Kirkman series. So Kyle might be totally justified in thinking that things are gonna get better.
He should have learned by now.
Right.
I'm sorry, you will never catch a break, ever. It's always gonna be hard. You're just like Harry Potter. Your life doesn't get better.
So obviously then we get, Kyle talks to Anderson, then he gets that phone call, which is the devastating, the ending of the episode, which is Aunt Megan is sick like mommy. Everything's horrible for everybody. I wanted to circle around and talk about Mark a little bit, but it does seem a little bit to me like Mark is mostly in this episode to give us a bunch of moments that make us feel hopeful, just so we can be all the more devastated
Never
later.
trust it. Never trust it.
I knew. I was like, oh, this happy moment. Someone's gonna die. I actually thought just she was gonna get possessed and was gonna have problems, but then I'm like, oh no, they went there. They went.
And see, now the surprising thing for me was that he wasn't thrown out a window, which is what happens in the comic book, is that they kind of have a tussle. She actually attacks their daughter first in the comic.
Yes.
They have a tussle because he's trying to stop her, and she, in a rage, throws him out of a window, and he dies that way, breaks his neck on the pavement, right? Yeah.
Spoilers for the comics. So I haven't gotten there. I've gotten to the issue that I'm on, and it is this episode. It's with Megan getting possessed. The issue is called, I believe, Close to Home. Or that might have been the one just before the one I'm reading. But the attack happens. He gets attacked by Megan after she attacks their daughter, but he survives that initial attack, and he goes to Kyle to get Kyle involved, and then Kyle recruits Anderson. There's some weird... We can talk about this more elsewhere in a different conversation, but there's some weird, obviously time collapse and expansion as far as when they adapted the comics for TV. Yeah. But Mark, it's a series of moments. If it was any one thing, even something as big as Megan's pregnant again, I might not have gone, oh, something absolutely horrible is about to happen. But it's that plus, hey, he got suspended and that's a bummer. But you know what? He's got a job interview tomorrow. Things are looking up. I'm connecting with Kyle, so that's going to bring our whole family even further together. This is good. And now he's probably dead. And of course that was what was. And then after all of that, it's like the pregnancy scene is like, all right, this is they're just like wiping the coffin off now for us is what they're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, to show it in such an intimate way, like for a husband to run into the bathroom and be like, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" It was just scary. Accidents happen in the bathroom and in the kitchen in the home. It could have been very bad. Is it scalding hot water? Did you slip and fall? Have you cut yourself? What's going on? And then you'd be like, "Okay, you're not you." You're staring in the mirror, and then just killing me, and those shards of glass are so huge in his neck.
I know.
And he's begging for help, and it's so so awful. Just for her to be naked and completely, usually if a woman is naked and it's on film, she's very vulnerable. Not here. She's just strong, but also not the person that we've grown to love.
Something so disturbingly alien about it. And
just disconnected. There's just and he's trying so hard to be why are you like this? And it's just over. It's over before it even begins.
And lest anyone think that me pointing out that he does seem to be in this episode largely to pull emotional strings, I am not criticizing it as manipulative. In fact, the contrary, I think it works surprisingly well. It works almost better than it should, considering how quickly I was able to pick up on the fact that that's what they were doing.
Yeah, to me, it's just you see him so much that doom is coming, but at the same time, it was completely logical and made total sense. It just how nudity is often gratuitously used in shows, but the fact that Megan was naked in this just honestly fit so well as to her rebirth.
Yes, exactly. The rebirth thing, almost like she was a totally new, an infant in this grown body, which was so
I was like,
disturbing.
that is a proper use of nudity.
Superhuman infant crushing melon heads. holy cow, what an entrance into the world. And I like that we cut away instantly. Like, because of course our first instinct is like, the girls, they're in the house. She said they could sleep over. Oh God. And then they were just like, nope, just cut away from the house.
What they do is you hear the crash, right? And you see Megan go, like turn. And then it cuts like, no, go back, make her stop. It's like, while we're over here, she's back there doing awful things. No.
It was definitely reminiscent of like the raptor scene in the first Jurassic Park,
Oh,
where
yeah.
the kids are like running away and they're like trying to clean pans, and like the girls had no warning though. They did not know mommy was a dinosaur.
Yeah, it was very much like any Friday the 13th. I mean, you could literally pick out of all of them whenever Jason hears a noise, because just much like, Jason Voorhees, Megan is a possessed, entity that currently has no thoughts and feelings that we're aware of. Just must kill. Where is this noise coming from?
I actually thought, I don't know why I thought this, I thought that the girls were going to hear, like, the noise from her slamming his head, and I was just imagining her walking in on her mom, like, playing in her dad's blood.
Oh, yeah. That would have been dark.
Yeah.
Oh,
but,
man. I guess they could have done that and made it darker. That's maybe the one thing they could have done to make that even more
That's what I
emotional.
totally thought was going to happen. And, I
And
was
now
like,
we know they'll just probably add that in the deleted scenes on the DVD.
Oh, boy. And the camera just holds there for 5 minutes of an unbroken take of this little girl as tears just slowly start to fall.
Think
I
about
don't think
how
she'd
traumatized-
have 5 minutes with her mom though. I think she'd be crushed in like a full minute. And I'm wondering, like, are we going to open up next episode on them in a closet? Like, just kind of completing that circle of children hiding in closets from their parents. Like, before we get can we talk about Ogden and Kat?
So there is this whole other thing going
This is a
on
crazy science all of a sudden.
in this little pocket of the world that I have some questions about.
Lots of questions.
And I'm glad it's not just me.
So many questions.
I know that Sydney is, for all intents and purposes, the devil, but he's also in a person body, and he can't, as far as we know, teleport, right?
Right.
He sure does get places super fast.
does.
He sure does get to this rest stop, which seems like it's meant to be way out on the highway, and then back to the deacon meeting real quick.
Yeah.
Unless we're meant to, okay, we cut, but there's like 2 days in between these two events. He gets around pretty quick.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he's got like flu powder. So Ogden and Kat are leaving ostensibly to just have a new beginning, and Giles is actually gonna let him go as long as you're not causing trouble. It's like, we've been friends a long time. I'm not a big fan of this idea, but all right, I've known you long enough. I owe you this, I suppose. So they're gonna go, and they make it out to this rest stop, and they have this really cute exchange where you actually see what Ogden was talking about like how this version of his wife and him, they actually seem to love each other. He exchanged his blood pressure with the salt, and I was like, oh, that's...
I'm gonna get you an apple instead, honey. Aw.
It's like, this is really adorable until I remember what's actually going on, and then it's hyper disturbing, but really well played. And then she goes, and Sydney's just... Okay, so Sydney's just chilling in the restroom at this rest stop, I guess, and of course, he knew that she was showing up, right? Right? We're meant to know that he knew that she was... He wasn't just hanging out in this rest stop.
It certainly seemed like a meetup.
Can you, like, I'm imagining Sydney, the part of the scene that we didn't, like, we cut into the scene later, but Sydney just spending the day there, and then Kat enters, and he goes, this is a lucky break. Okay. It's like, straightens up, he's like,
Two birds, one stone.
It's like, I have a new job for you. So he does have a new job for Kat, which seems to have something to do with creepy abandoned mannequin warehouse.
Yeah, I mean, where else do you put demons of a low level that have a thing to do? Like, I mean, it happened to Ghostbusters. Like, mannequins get possessed a lot. Yeah. They're like human bodies, but without a soul already in them, it's less work.
So, but my question is, I felt like I missed something, or maybe it's information that they're intentionally withholding. What is going on here? Like, what is
I
this
was confused.
Yeah.
place?
We
What is
don't
happening?
know yet, is my takeaway from it.
Yeah, because to me, it's just like, the mannequins obviously probably have some significance, but maybe they just are doing it in this warehouse just to throw us off, because we're like, oh, they might possess these mannequins so they don't bother people. But no, they may just be like, haha, made you look.
Evil mannequin army. I'm ready for it, Robert. Give me.
Played by Kim Cattrall.
It's like,
yes, please.
It's like I laughed, and then I really thought about it for a second, and I laughed some more. That was good.
Oh gosh.
Mannequin was a movie starring Kim Cattrall. For those of you that don't know.
I wonder how important it really is and how important Kat perceives it to be. Because she hasn't, at least so far, seemed to rank pretty high. She's like a low-level general. Like, she makes sure, like, everyone gets issued in the correct form. Like, don't get yourself caught up with family. Like, come here, freak out, come down, and then we'll reintroduce you to the world, and you'll be safe. Which I guess has started building this army slowly. So now, I guess, whatever the natural next step in their takeover, but we don't know much about their takeover, so it's kind of hard to guess. What are they going to be helping more of these things come in? Is this a bigger hideout?
The mannequin warehouse creepy place is where they build the device that shoots the laser into the sky and opens the portal, like in all the superhero movies.
Yes!
Totally.
Again, Ghostbusters!
And that's when Sydney's alien army comes through, and
I love it.
Yeah, and he like swings an Infinity Stone around, and everyone's confused, but it's awesome.
It sounds amazing.
Aliens sound way better than what this might be.
But so we don't get a sense really of what this job is. We don't even really know. I mean, look, it's the second to last episode of the season, so you would assume that if it's in there, it's important.
Oh yeah.
This is an important job, but it's also, you know, Kat, Joelle, you just referred to Kat as maybe being like a mid to low level general, right? So she's just following orders from Sydney. But she says to Ogden's like, why can't anybody else do this? You know, why can't we just go, you and me, we go do our thing? And Kat's like, well, there is no you and me without this. Okay, phrase it this way. How did you guys read that? Because I feel like there is a ton that you could unpack.
What I took away from that is Kat is like, I love you because I need you. Not I love you unconditionally, no matter what, you're my husband. It's like, you play really well into all of my plans. And if we don't have this, I could easily walk away from you and find someone who will help me achieve whatever my goals are. And I think that Ogden is so into this relationship that he'll kind of do whatever Kat suggests. Like, it doesn't seem to take a lot of pushing or pulling to get him to fall in line. How you got it very differently, didn't you?
So, because there are so many different ways that I think are based on the very limited information that we have, I think are equally valid readings of it. But I'm going, okay, so obviously this job's important enough that however much he does or does not love Ogden, this job's more important than he is. Okay, is it important because it's this specific job? Is it more important because Sydney could have given any order and any order from Sydney is more important? Or they're all talking about the merger, and we get little context clues. We still don't know really what that is, but little context clues over the course of the season, like things that Mildred said. Nope. Taking it back, doing it again. Things that Mildred said, specifically things like her being concerned that she's not going to survive the merger, for example, makes it seem like whatever this thing is that's coming is real bad for us, but it could also potentially be bad for some of these possessing entities. So maybe this is crazy tinfoil hat theory, perhaps, but could it be that part of this job, part of this thing that she was assigned to, is facilitating a process by which more of them, most of them, if not all of them, are able to survive this merger? Which would mean that statement, without this, there is no me and you, is literal. Because it's like, without this, whatever this job is that we don't know anything about, I may just cease to exist completely.
Yeah, that's what I took it as.
Really?
Is that
That's
this
real
whole
deep.
situation was really more about her surviving and being who she was, you know, and that this job was given to her to help facilitate other people. And yeah, that's what I took, because she does seem to genuinely care about him, so I didn't think it was too sinister. And
Kat seems to be playing a very long game for me, so I'm not sure I'm convinced that she cares for Ogden the way Ogden cares for her. I really feel like he was a really great shepherd into this world, but she seems to be ambitious to me. From the little that we've seen of her, I get power hungry. And I think that at any point, if Ogden comes in contradiction of that search for power, she will take him down. Without a second thought, I think that she's played her cards. Everybody owes her a favor. Anyone that she helped reintroduce into the world owes her something.
That's true, and they were both involved in helping these people transition. So that's true, and that's something that we haven't really explored beyond what Ogden's take on it is. We haven't really explored what the potential impact of them helping these people transition is. And I'm curious to see if we do that. And see, now we're starting to tiptoe towards predictions, so why don't we just jump in?
Let's
jump into predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV prediction.
That sound is the sound that the laser is going to make when it opens the sky portal and
The hellmouth.
lets the aliens in.
I love it. I love it. Predictions.
Well, since we were just speaking of Ogden, for some reason, I feel like this is not a good situation for him to be in.
No.
Like, why is, you know what I mean? Like, why does...
You feel for some reason it's not a good situation?
But, like, for real, like, what makes him think that him being the only person helping all of these demons is going to work out in his favor? He's kind of seemed to, like, get away with it this far, and he's fine. But no good is coming from this for him.
I feel like he thinks he might be like the Hunchback to like Dr. Frankenstein, or I know Dracula has like a little side creature whose name I cannot remember.
Renfield.
Thank you.
That's the
like
one.
a Renfield moment, like where he's like, they'll like me enough and I can interact enough with everybody. They'll keep me around. Like I'll be protected.
Yeah.
I think it's a dumb plan. I agree.
That's
with
what
you.
I think.
I don't think
And
it'll work, but I think that's his fault.
And I also think he's just like so sucked into how much he's loving this version of her that he's not even really thinking about the rest of it at the moment. And obviously he's very easily persuaded by her and distracted. Like
Right.
he was like gung-ho about getting out, and then all of a sudden she has to just touch a little bit and he's fine. He's like, okay, we'll stay. So I think bad things are coming from him. I'm still really curious, definitely now with Megan being possessed. I don't think Donnie's out of the picture yet, so I'm curious to how that's going to play into her and her being possessed.
I feel
So-
like, to what you just said, I feel like if anything positive is going to come out of Megan being possessed,
her killing Donnie.
it might be wiping the slate clean of Donnie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I really,
I hope
pray
that
Donnie
happens.
shows up. Yeah. I just wish and hope that Donnie shows up so she can bash his face in. It'd be very soothing for us and it'd make everything kind of worthwhile. Like, yeah, he had to go, but look, now Donnie's dead too, so it's really a new start for Megan. I think very lame prediction, but we're gonna get the team back together. Like, it's gonna be time to ride or die, and I'm kind of hoping Giles joins us this time. Like, I feel like I'm ready for like some shotgun toting Giles to like blast things away. I'm hoping it's a little more. We've been really dark in our emotions. Like, I'm ready to see more punching. Like from the first episode, like let's punch kids in the face and like
Yes.
get bloody. That's what I'm hoping for next week.
Yeah, to me, I do feel like Giles is going to join Reverend Anderson and Kyle because he's already helping them. He already knows the situation. I mean, that's why he encouraged Ogden and Kat to leave, because he's like, okay, like she may be one of them, but so far I don't see her being so dark. And to me, I still don't see that, because I do feel like they're going to show us some people that are possessed that aren't completely evil. But I feel like Ogden, is very, like you said, a Renfield sort of character that is expendable. I don't see that coming from Kat, but Sydney. I feel like he will use him to put her in line if they start to stray away.
Interesting.
So the more I think about your guys' predictions and the more I think about laser portals in the sky, I would not be mad if the finale was Anderson, Kyle, Giles, and maybe even Patricia strapping on proton packs and fighting these demons. Would be amazing. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I wouldn't be mad. I do think it would be a little weird if Giles doesn't get more involved in the action, specifically because we get two really specific pointed moments with him in this episode, one of which is when he says to Sydney, you basically, don't mess with my friends.
Yeah.
I told you before, don't push me. I'm going to push back.
And Giles can't
capable of
just be a
lie.
watcher.
Yeah.
That, but...
Thank you.
Thank you. So, also though, the goodbye, and it's very early in the episode, the goodbye between Giles and Ogden, where Ogden basically threatens him, where he basically says, you're getting involved in stuff you don't understand. Don't get too involved because that could be dangerous for you.
They finally put that line in the sand and like they're on opposite sides.
Would it now not be super weird to have taken the time to do that if Giles doesn't get more involved?
Yeah.
It would indeed. It would indeed.
On a storytelling level, look, I would watch an hour every week of nothing but Reggie Cathy being tough and talking smack to people. I totally would. But why are those moments here if not to set up greater involvement? I want to see it. I want to see him finally
I'm ready for it.
just jump headfirst into the battle against evil, hit people in the face.
Maybe use a shovel. Like,
Yes.
I want old school weapons, like a shovel and a shotgun and maybe like
Chainsaw.
Yes!
You know?
Yes, Lacretia!
That's the best one. Strap it to your hand, or where your hand used to be, because it got possessed.
And of course, whatever happens when Kyle and Anderson go to rescue the little girls from the possessed Megan, I'm sure it's going to be harrowing. I'm very excited. We got one episode left.
That's crazy.
Next week is the finale.
Time flew.
I'm a scared guys. I'm scared.
I'm really scared.
So, we are going to be back next week to talk about the finale of season 1 of Outcast. I'm looking forward to it. In the meantime, my wonderful...
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Also, sidebar, everybody go to Netflix and watch Twin Peaks. It's one of the greatest things that's ever been
They are
made
doing a revival
by
next
people
year.
ever. Until next week, when we reconvene to talk about, not Twin Peaks, but the finale of season 1 of Outcast. My wonderful panel, where can people find you guys online?
Everyone can find me at _Abby Vega.
Hey guys, I'm Joelle Monique. You can find me everywhere on the internet at Joelle Monique and every week at blackgirlnerds.com.
And I'm Lacretia Lyon, so you can find me anywhere at LACRETIALYON, since there is only one.
And I am Lex Michael, all over social media, at the Lex Michael. We're going to be back next week. We're going to see some stuff happen. I'm excited. Join us then.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.